Okay. I think we're on.
Let's do it.
I know you know this, but it's going to be funny when they find out I'm sitting on a pillow because I'm short.
Probably. Yeah. It took us a while to find that. But we got a quick solution. So it's all
Austyn, how does it feel to be like the first person I'm interviewing for my podcast?
I think it feels great. I'm honored, Jeff. Truly, I'm honored.
Why don't you introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name's Austyn, real estate agent here in the Milwaukee area. Been doing real estate a little over a year now. Yeah.
Cool.
That's kind of me. That's the real estate.
He's the first agent on my team. And that's actually the reason why I wanted to talk to you, or I think you would be the perfect person to engage in, and someone who's the first year in the business.
Sure.
And you're killing it.
Yeah, thanks.
Did you know the average agent, and maybe you did, but the average agent only sells about 10 houses a year.
Mm-hmm.
And you're past that already.
We are.
You, bro. You're probably projected to do 20 plus by the end of the year.
That's
based off of the deal sheet that we have.
That's the goal. 100%.
So I think there's the concept of it's really hard to get going and you have to build a database. You have to be in the business for, X amount of years before you really take off, but you're living proof that that's not the case.
100%.
So that's what I want to have a dialogue about. Kind of what are you doing that everybody else should be doing who's new in the business? So,
sure.
I guess that's the question. What are you doing that's exploding your business from 0 to 100?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think definitely the most important piece, I think, is definitely getting the education. So when I started my career, I really didn't produce for about 5 months. Spent that time really just learning everything, right? Plugging into all the KW systems, things like that, going to the networking events, talking to people, different brokerages, whatever, and really just learning things first, I think is super important, right? So, and you hear the thing in real estate, you don't want to practice on your clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just want to practice with colleagues, talk to people, understand really what your job is, right? And what's the goal. So I took a lot of time to do that. I knew instantly getting into the business that I wanted to be on a team. Just being on YouTube my senior year of high school, this is everyone said, a team is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find a team. You need to find a good mentor. Eventually found that spot with you guys. And I've been delighted with having this good opportunity for the past 8 months now.
Good.
9 months now. So.
And you're killing it, dude. You're
Thanks,
killing
man.
it. So what does your day look like?
Sure.
I mean, obviously, I think in this business, it's hard to be held accountable to yourself because you're a real estate agent. No one's telling you what to do or how to do it. Sure, they're giving you trainings on hey, you should call your sphere of influence, or you should call friends and family,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doing it is the hard part, or at least holding yourself accountable to do it. Because if you don't do it, they're not going to be oh, you're fired,
right?
So I guess tell me what you're doing consistently that is getting you opportunities for these sales.
Yeah, sure. And I think anyone, especially being new into the business, that consistency, the accountability is super tough. And I definitely struggle with that myself, right? Because you don't have anybody telling you what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
There is no clock to punch, right? When I was doing my part-time jobs before I got into this, I was there on time every time because you have superiors
mm-hmm.
that are there. And you know what you're making, you know what's happening, right, at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing and why a lot of people in this business aren't successful, because it takes a lot more than you really think, right? And that consistency is everything.
Yeah.
Right? So I think a typical day-to-day, it really varies. Definitely working on getting a little bit more structured. And I think that just comes with the time, right? Because it's tough and everything's different. But really, we try to not do any appointments in the mornings, and I think you're the same way,
mm-hmm.
right? At least a bare minimum of 3 to 4 hours a day calling. So your expireds, your probates, circle prospecting around neighborhoods that our buyers are looking to move in, or just neighborhoods that we want to list houses in,
mm-hmm.
right? So I think that's very important. Roughly 1 to 2 hours of follow up a day. Obviously, it depends what's going on, right? And then I typically try to spend another hour, I guess, tending to my current transactions
mm-hmm.
that are under contract. Obviously, that one day I might only have 30 minutes follow-up. That's on my schedule for that day. And then you might have 2 hours that you have to tender towards your current transactions, right? So it can differ, and that's the tricky thing, right?
Mhm.
Getting that locked in, you don't know, right? You have people texting you, we need this, and I'm happy to do it, right?
Mhm.
I'll answer the phone really at any time, honestly.
Yeah.
So do the calling, the follow up, and then really anytime after 5 is when I like to do my appointments the most. And if I'm not going on listing appointments, showings, whatever, I'll just keep calling.
Yeah.
Honestly, or doing the admin type of work.
So, I mean, what I'm hearing is if you're not spending time every day finding new business,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be sitting there working on things like your website or your Instagram or things like that.
100%.
Where that takes, I mean, that is an avenue. So we do call expireds for sell by owners, all the other things that you mentioned.
Right.
And we both know it's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a ton of different avenues of being able to find business of who could potentially say, yeah, I want to sell my house, or I'm still like I want to buy a home, whatever.
Right.
What other avenues could you give others watching or listening that they could do to, doesn't have to be expireds, right?
Sure. Yeah. So I think no matter what, like really calling people is where you're going to get the most success, in my opinion. And if you're looking to do it quicker, right? Because you can go to an open house, you can hold the open house for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You may get 5 leads, but are all 5 of those going to check out at the end of the day?
No.
3 of them have agents. Another one is just kind of taking a look around, and maybe you can score that one, but that's 2 hours of time. So I think another avenue is really just getting in touch with your sphere. So friends, family, past colleagues, anybody, people at the gym, the grocery store you go to, anyone, right? So, I mean, for me, especially recently, trying to go down the avenue of aggressively asking for referrals at the same time, so cultivating that relationship, doing monthly calls with your sphere, and then aggressively asking for referrals. And I think a lot of people would get that twisted, thinking it's a bad thing. And I thought it was a bad thing when I started. Like, why should I ask? Why should I ask Jason? To give me some leads? He barely even knows me, right? But curating that relationship over time, showing your value to that person, even if they aren't the one purchasing the house, I think, aggressively asking for those can be huge in your business.
100%. Because it's like when I first started, I only sold one house my first year. I was told to call my friends and family, and I was super reluctant to do it because I thought it was weird asking for business. And turns out after I did get a coach, he was actually the manager at a different brokerage, and he was kind enough to take me under his wing. And he's like, hey, you want to be successful. You're working other jobs. I know you want to quit those jobs. Like, how are we going to get you there? Here's a plan to do it. My first task was he made sure I called my friends and family.
Right.
And the funny thing is we're actually working right now with Anthony. Like, who in your family, or I guess, well, I just gave it away, but who in your sphere, your friends and family, coworkers that maybe they're working with you part-time, who is going to be the one or most likely to know somebody at your age, right? You're by the way, you're 19 years old. Sure. I forgot to mention that.
We'll be 20 next month. We're getting there. We're getting there.
It blows my mind. So anybody who's like also young and they're like, oh, but no one's going to take me seriously. You're proof, dude, that that's not the case.
Yeah.
So anyways, who do you know that would most likely have a person looking to buy or sell? And we're like, it's going to be like your aunts, uncles, grandparents. So we worked on a script that sounded like, hey, Uncle Bob, I just got in the business. I started the biggest brokerage in the US, and we're really excited about it. I need your help. And that's like that's the key phrase is I need your help.
Right.
Is your aunt and uncle going to tell you no?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No. And I think that goes back to my limiting belief earlier. Like, they aren't going to take me seriously. I'm not good enough yet. But if you always think, you got to do it a few times, right, to get the hang of it. And if you're not going to go out there and ask for it or try, then you'll never grow, right? So you have to take that leap of faith. You just have to trust yourself. Absolutely. And honestly, at the end of the day, who cares what people think, right? Do your job, and you have as a new agent, there's so many people that you can ask for help. And getting into this industry, I was really reluctant to think that a lot of people weren't going to help me because they wanted more business for themselves. They didn't want to help a new agent get the deal. They were going to go find that deal that I'm trying to get, right? But, especially in the KW culture, everyone is happy to help, whether you're on their team, you're a brand new agent that hasn't even gotten their license yet. Like everyone is super cool to help. And I think that's another thing to kind of segue into. I think getting a good group around yourself, finding a good mentor is definitely a first good step, right? You listen to anybody, they're going to say, go talk to somebody that's been doing it 10 plus years.
Yeah.
They'll lay out the plan. They'll tell you how to be successful. It just matters, are you going to follow that plan or not, right?
Right. Exactly. It's if you're sitting around all day not trying to find new business, you're not going to get new business.
No, never.
So my first deal or transaction was given to me because somebody left my brokerage, or the last brokerage I was with. He moved to Florida.
Okay.
And he calls me up. He goes, I know you're a new agent. I have this duplex that I've been trying to sell. Can't sell it. It expires. And I don't have my license anymore in Wisconsin. I got it in Florida. So I took it. And when I met this guy, I walked in because he lived in the lower.
Okay.
And he had a potbelly pig as a pet. And we're talking like farm pig.
Okay.
Like a big boy pig. And I walked in and he goes, hey, bacon is going to charge you. I know.
Bacon.
We would and he had his own bedroom, bro.
Wow.
And every time we had a showing, they couldn't put a pig in a car.
Right.
So the pig had to be there.
I mean, they're a couple hundred pounds at least, right?
Yeah.
I think.
He was massive, dude. And anyway, so he one day he calls me and he goes, Jeff, bacon died.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Okay.
And in my head,
blue.
I know.
Bacon's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
During the listing, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, hell yes. Like, I'm
right.
so sorry about bacon. Can I have some?
Yeah, right.
And literally like the next week, we actually got an offer on it.
Wow.
It was crazy. It blew my mind. So I'm curious, like, when you got your first sale, where did you get it from? And what did that transaction even look like?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, first sale. So this was January of this year, January 12th, 2024 is the date that one closed. So that one was a Facebook lead. So at that time we were working together. I was just doing buyers at that point in my career, calling Facebook leads, really any online lead, any buyer that's ever.
How did you like Facebook leads?
Terrible. Terrible.
Those are the cold of the cold.
Yeah. I think it's a good opportunity, especially if you have listings. It's a good opportunity to pick up leads and you can add them to your database over time. And, maybe a few of them are going to close throughout the years, but it's not the greatest avenue by any means. Yeah. So called him, set up a search, just did the typical things, get him started, nurtured, I think for maybe 2-3 months. And then, he emailed me back and said, hey, Austyn, I want to see these 3 houses. I'm like, okay, fantastic. So that night, like 30 seconds after that email was sent, I'm already on it. Okay, great. What time? Here's my availability tomorrow. Let's go schedule these showings. So got him in there. We did that. Unfortunately, none of those houses were the ones for him. But believe me, I was hungry for a deal at that point. It had been, I think, 4 or 5 months in my career and not making any money, right? And that's going back to another reason of why a lot of people, just don't succeed in this business because it takes so long.
Yeah.
And not saying you can't do it sooner, but I'd say just the general trajectory says like 4 to 8 months or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. They say whatever you do today, it takes 90 days to get the result.
Right.
And so even though it took you 3 months, we'll say, before you started looking and close on the deal, you were still doing the activities though, right? You were still making calls and you're building your pipeline.
Yep.
That's, and then there you go. Then you have another person who reaches out. But I also want to talk about the phrase that you coined. What do you love doing?
I love the chase. The chase. This is a new thing we kind of just came up with a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Probably.
Well, you've been doing it for a while. I love it when you said like, man, I just love the chase. Tell everybody what that is.
So essentially that's like aggressively trying to find trying to match a deal together. So let's say I have, okay, so I mean, this just happened the other day. So I have a lead on a condo in Waukesha, right? I don't have any buyers.
Where'd you get them?
For a condo. That was actually an open house
for
your listing.
Open house. Another avenue.
Another good avenue. Definitely something to dive into and sprinkle in here and there. But yeah, so, got the lead, had a great conversation with him, got a good idea of, what he was looking to buy and, the specs of his house and what he was looking to do. So, 5 minutes after he walked out the door, I was already on the phone with you. Jeff, do you have a buyer for this? And then what he was looking for, anything up to $1 million, certain criteria, whatever. I'm like, do you have anything in the pipeline? Any buyers that came through your open house the hour before me, like, do they want this? Like, we need this to happen. And yeah, so I really love just aggressively going to find matches for deals. And I think where a lot of that resonates and comes from is, so when I was in middle school, I was really into like fashion and shoes. And looking back on it, the skinny jeans wave, not it, but I was unfortunately a part of it. So I was really into shoes. And then me and my buddy actually started a business just reselling shoes, right? So it was called Wisconsin Resell is what we called it. We joined so many groups on Instagram, Facebook that were just posting shoe deals, like back in the day, like your Yeezys, if you remember when Yeezys were out.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan 1s, like when those were really hot, years ago. So we started the shoe resale business. We would rent out tables at like sneaker cons, sneaker events, and we'd sell shoes. And I think that's where a lot of my passion from real estate came from, because it's really the same premise. But yeah, I get that pair of shoes and I'm like, okay, well, granted I was 12, 13 at the time. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to sell this pair to buy another pair. So let me go hunt and find somebody to buy this really quick. So
that's crazy.
That's kind of where
I didn't know
where it came from.
I didn't know it was all about shoes. I knew a couple people who did that. And I don't know anything about shoes to like, I probably lose money because I'm like, I don't even know what these are.
Yeah, and I definitely did lose money. So I wish I knew a lot. I mean, I made money, but I wish I knew a lot of the business knowledge that I have now.
Like the one thing I love about the chase is you're getting on the horn with other like investors. You're getting on the horn with other agents. You're even getting on the horn with potential sellers that have stuff that they're just not ready to list yet.
Right.
But what you're doing is, again, you're having another conversation about real estate with people that opens up like opportunities. 100%. Like you had, I think, we won't say her name because obviously it's public, but you had that buyer that she's been looking for. Like you actually wrote on the 4-family.
Oh,
remember
sure.
that? Yeah.
Yep.
You made that connection. I can't remember how you got her as a connection from like how did you get in touch with her?
Yeah. So I think she was another Facebook lead. I'd have to double check, but I think she was an online lead. I think it was Facebook that came in, and I've been in contact with her for maybe 8-9 months now. And, we did a couple showings here and there, but it never really came to something. And then, we had more conversations. We built some more rapport, and I think she was more receptive to working with me. So then I found her that opportunity, I think, 3 weeks before you listed it. We got her in the door before anyone could get in the door. And yeah, that's kind of how that one came to fruition.
And now it seems like she uses you exclusively.
Yeah.
And 100%. I think it's because
I'm sending her deals every day.
See, I mean, so you're making the connection, and that's the thing is I feel like the average agent, what happens is they have that initial phone call. It's exciting because it's like a brand new lead. They set them up on a search, and then they just sit back and wait. Right. But then what you're doing is you have an opportunity or you see an opportunity and you're like, okay, who in my list can I make this connection? Because if I can make this connection, I'm going to get paid in 30 days. Like that's huge.
Exactly.
Opportunity opens up doors with everybody that you're talking to. You're making connection with agents. I guarantee you when you write offers with your buyers on listings where the agent knows you and they're having a conversation with the seller, like, hey, these two offers are very similar. I don't know this agent, but I've been working with this agent and I know he's got great communication. I know he's skillful in his job. We're going to have an easier transaction with this one, even though they're both similar.
100%.
So you're going to have an upper hand on that.
100%. And real quick, I think that kind of resonates even if you haven't done a deal with that agent. I think Like my biggest thing, and I don't think a lot of agents do this, like before I even show the property, I'm calling the listing agent, I'm getting information, especially now with, the whole NAR thing. I'm figuring out commission first. That way I can prepare my buyers for that before we go take a look at the property. So I'm getting information on, big ticket things, mechanicals, roof, big ticket items that would cost a lot of money to repair if they need to be repaired. So I'm already building rapport, having good communication, and a lot of agents appreciate that, right? Because they want the buyers to know the full scope of the information, whether it's good or bad, right? Because they're going to find it out eventually.
Absolutely.
So I think prefacing that, from the beginning, and then you see the house and you text the agent, whether it was good or bad. We loved it. We're going to rent the property. I'll call you later. Okay, communication is continuing to be good. Call her before we submit an agent or before we submit an offer, because I hear a lot of agents submitting offers before they even call the listing agent. And I've had that happen on my listings personally. And it's whatever, but it's good to have that communication beforehand and explain a couple of things, especially if it's something as simple as, getting the right closing date that the seller wants, right? Like even if you're off by a week, that can make a huge difference whether, this or that offer is going to get accepted. Absolutely.
And one of the things I want to talk, which is one of the toughest parts about real estate, is like the emotions that you have. Like what kind of, we hear it's like a roller coaster, but I feel like it's a real thing. Like, have you experienced that?
Yeah.
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 So
100%.
So how do you handle that when you feel like you're in the rut? Nothing's happening.
Yeah.
You're still making those phone calls, but it's like a bad week. Like I get them too, right? How are you handling that when that happens? You just got to go out and get partied up and no.
I wish. No, I think it's really just about staying positive. And I think I lean on you a lot for that too. When there's bad days, bad weeks, we lean on each other when things don't go as planned. But I think that's real estate. And at the beginning, I didn't understand it, and it was so frustrating. Like I got into the business, I set the goals. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna produce 20 million this year. Like I'm unstoppable. I don't care. This is what's happening, right? And then you do it for a little bit, and you're like, okay, that's possible, but not right now.
Yeah,
we're not there yet. We got to learn a little bit. We got to build it up. So I think, it's also just coming down to earth and realizing, okay, this is kind of just the way it is, but we can't stop, right?
Yeah.
Because you may be on that 150th phone call for the day, but that 151st, if you just press dial one more time, you could get the listing appointment.
I love that mentality because like newer agents, what I'll tell is like, it's like working out. Like people that work out, right? First time working out, they're like, I want to lose weight. And then they work out for like a full month straight, right? And they don't see any changes. Right. And then they just like give up on it. I feel like it's the same exact thing. It's like you're calling, you're dialing, you might get a listing appointment, you're competing, you lose it, you're still making dials. You just want to give up kind of, or it's like, this is crap. Like this sucks. Like that's the hard part about it. And then the next thing you know, it's like the next week you get somebody to call you back because you've been following up with them all the time. And then you also just doing the right activities of just trying to find new business, you'll get another listing appointment here or there.
100%.
And then grandma dies, and then you have to sell grandma's property.
Yeah, right. We're cruising.
So it could be one week where it's like nothing and it's tough, but then the next week, just because you stuck with it, doing those activities, that's when things could blow up.
100%.
So yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, and kind of going back to just servicing your clients, like that one we were talking about, that she still hasn't purchased with me, and we talk every day. It feels like I said, we go look at a new property every day, and it's fine that it's not for her, but she sees, especially when going back to the taste, she sees that I'm valuable to her, right? Austyn's actually working for me for 9 months now, and he hasn't gotten paid. Really? Right? So that you can reap the rewards of referrals there. Maybe she just decides it's not for her anymore. The investment route just not for her. Totally fine. But, when she's talking to her daughter or whatever, and she wants to buy a house. Well, Austyn did great, and he never got paid. Absolutely. Not that the payment's the point.
Yeah.
But I guess it kind of makes you think about it a little bit differently. Right?
So what I understand here is because you're going the extra mile, instead of just setting up a search, showing a property, going home and waiting for them to text you back, by going out and finding them properties, doing the chase, right?
Yep.
And then providing them value by information that could be useful for them when writing an offer, or even just to see the property in general, you're what? Yeah, like you said, she needs you.
Right.
Like, it feels like I need Austyn to make sure I have a successful closing.
Right.
So with that said, like that's key because she'll never forget that.
No, I hope
referrals is huge. And that's why we say that, like we try to build a relationship with our clients, not just as a transaction. Of course, we want as many as possible, but if we build that relationship, then like they become the client for life, but then they're going to refer everybody to us.
Right.
So one transaction might be, hey, I made a couple of $1,000s off of it, but that's not the end of it.
No, never.
It could be tens of thousands of dollars in 5 years with how much they refer you.
Right. And imagine if you're doing that to every client, if you're providing that service to every client.
Absolutely.
And I think when you focus on building that relationship, it also can be a lot more fun too, right? Like when you're friends with the client that you're showing houses, it's fun, right? Like I don't mind doing it. We're just spending, it's like I'm hanging out with my friends, right? It's a boys' night.
Absolutely.
But we're showing houses tonight. That's fine.
There's another gentleman on our team who's actually just trying out the team, but he said today that it doesn't feel like he's at work. He feels he's having fun doing it. And I think that's what we love about this job.
100%.
So before, we end this, if there was one thing that you could tell, because I think this is tailored to like newer agents or even agents who are struggling a little bit on trying to catch on, right? If you could give them one advice, what would that be?
Yeah, I would definitely say I have a lot. More than one.
You gave a couple.
I think most important, just first of all, I think when you get your license, you're going to set the goals, right? Set the goals. What does this look like to you? What do you want to accomplish in this career? I think that's the biggest thing. If you're in it to, this is easy money. I want to make $100,000, right? Let's be realistic. How are you going to get there? And you can 100% make that $100,000, but let's set this action plan and make sure that you follow this first. I think secondly, for agents that want to do more than just your average deals, I think you should be cold calling all day. I think it's the future. Just being a good person on the phones at the same time, and don't give up. Right? I was close. I thought so. I got into the business. I saved 6 months of reserves, right? Which I thought was enough, but I am a spender too. And I love eating out. Like there's not a day I come in here without some new fast food, whatever the hell it is. And I definitely beat myself down for that sometimes. But no, that 6 months of reserves went way quicker than I thought. And I was hurting, and I was close to almost, going to get a part-time job or doing something which would have affected, the schedule, which would have affected what I was doing. And then I hung in there for a couple more months, and look what happened, right? Just stick to the action items, keep going, and just get a good group of people around you that are like-minded individuals, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of younger people in this industry, especially, their friends are in college, right? They're partying every night, they're drinking every night, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you want to be successful and you want to do it quickly, you have to surround yourself around people that are like-minded, personally and professionally too, right? So find a good mentor. You don't have to get on a team right away, but just surround yourself around people that are going to have your back and, kind of pave the way for you. I think is super important. And you've done that for me, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. So.
I'm excited to have you on the team, man. You're incredible for your age, man. When I was 19, I was not doing this at all. I could see my producer over there kind of waving at me to wrap it up.
A little weird.
Just before we go, I got one last question for anybody who may be struggling or new. Like, what is the one person or category that they could call to find business like that day?
Sure. I would definitely start with your sphere, right? If that's what you're angling towards, getting a quick deal, or at least trying to. Definitely start with the sphere. I think, going down the line of the most important people, start with your parents. You're closest with your parents. They've got jobs. They know a lot of people, and maybe you can pick something up there. Grandparents also. They've been around a long time. They know a lot of people. They're close with their doctors, with their dentists. They know a lot of people, right? So I would start there and then just kind of trickle through the family first. Yeah. That's where I'd go. And then if you're younger, like myself, a lot of your friends in their early 20s might not be buying houses yet. So I'd start with their parents.
Yeah.
And go there.
That's actually
probably
a
my
really
best
good
advice.
idea. And I mean, it's almost like bringing it full circle because I feel like that was like the first thing we talked about was like getting into it, making the mistake of not calling friends and family because you were call reluctant because you didn't want to sound like a salesman. But
Exactly.
it's definitely that's where you go.
Exactly.
All right. I think I forgot to even mention the podcast in the beginning. So this would be the first time. So it's closing time with Jeff Nevin.
We love it. Jeff, that's awesome, man.
Thanks, dude. Thanks again for coming on, man.
Thank you.
I
We
think it's awesome.
appreciate it.
Cool.
All right, awesome. Take care.